Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. Jack and Keith's weekend playbook. We're going to talk some NFL, some Major League Baseball, some NBA. And with all that, I welcome in my co-host and Boxing Hall of Fame writer, Michael Spink's biographer, Jack Hirsch. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Keith.
Hope you're doing well, getting ready for a big weekend. Weekends are weekends.
Well, I'm getting ready. We'll see how big a weekend. The Jets play tonight preseason. I don't take wins and losses seriously in the preseason. I know we're going to talk about football first thing with the big exhibition slate, so we may as well hit the ground running.
I think
I don't care whether my team wins or not exhibition games. I couldn't care less.
Don't you listen? I'm not a huge exhibition season fan, so saying the big exhibition slate is probably overselling it. I know you were probably being sarcastic, but isn't it important for some teams to establish a bit of a winning attitude, like the Jets, like some other teams around the league? I don't think it's important for contenders to necessarily win any preseason games, and some don't play to win, obviously. But don't you think it's important for some teams to establish a bit of a winning feel?
No, not at all, Keith. It doesn't mean a thing. You could be beaten in the exhibition season, and then you get
dubbed in the
first game. It doesn't change things. It doesn't change the culture. You're playing backups for the most part. You're playing players who you're going to cut. You're not playing your best players.
Is that right? Why are we so excited?
We're not building.
Why was everybody so excited last week for Carson Beck to play well? And I don't hear a lot of the same stuff about Drew Allar playing great yesterday and Mendoza playing okay.
Because Carson Beck, the question is whether he's going to be the Cardinal quarterback of the future. That's the question. You can study a quarterback's play, a high-profile quarterback. Look, we do it all the time. Sometimes exhibition games are revealing and they mean a little. I saw a couple of red flags yesterday that bothered me a bit in regard to Cam Ward, the Tennessee Titan quarterback, who missed the rookie wide receiver they drafted in the first round, Cornell Tate.
Yeah.
He missed him with 2 or 3 passes that he should have connected with. I kind of didn't like that. Okay, but I don't take anything out of the game whether Tennessee won or lost.
No, I get that.
How they execute, how players are executing. That's what I take out of it. I don't take whole team efforts out of it.
So again, I guarantee you that we're not going to hear any hyperbole about Drew Allar today, who might be the future Steeler quarterback, by the way. He's drafted not that far behind Carson Beck, played as well or better than Carson Beck played yesterday. That's just one example, by the way. Will Howard played well there too yesterday.
Will Howard was the 6th round draft choice of the Steelers a year ago. This year, Drew Allar was drafted in the 3rd round. Everyone knows Aaron Rodgers is the starter. Aaron Rodgers even said he doesn't think he's going to play at all in the preseason at all. Keep that in mind. And they also have Mason Rudolph there. So they have a decision to make because they might be cutting one of those 3 quarterbacks. Or chances are they'll keep one on the practice squad. All 3 won't be on the active roster. And Mason Rudolph is a little too established, a little too experienced to get cut. And Mike McCarthy is a supposed quarterback guru, supposedly. And there's no evidence that he's not.
That's fair.
So let's be honest about it. He had Aaron Rodgers at Green Bay. So he certainly didn't mess up there. And then he had Dak Prescott when he went to the Cowboys. Those guys were already basically established. So he didn't mess up anywhere, you know that. But he likes developing young quarterbacks. And between Allar and Howard, they're projects to him that he's going to take great pride in developing. But the Steelers, it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to tell you why. If they don't have a good season, and I could see them taking a step back with this crap of good college quarterbacks coming out next year, if either Allar or Howard makes significant progress, And by that, I mean they show that they can be a franchise quarterback going forward. The Steelers probably won't draft a quarterback in the first round, but if neither guy shows you a lot, shows you that type of potential in McCarthy's view, they're absolutely going to be all in on drafting a quarterback early.
Again, are you going to get enough visibility on these guys during the season? Because even if the season goes down the toilet, which I think they could take a step back as well, I think they finished last in that division. Rodgers isn't going to want to go out sitting on the bench. So how much are you going to get to see these guys?
There's going to be drama at some point. Rodgers has always held tremendous power wherever he's been, except for when he was a rookie. The first 3 years he sat behind Brett Favre at Green Bay because Brett Favre was the iconic quarterback who had all the power. Good morning, Bo. And then after that, Rodgers had the power at Green Bay. He was able to keep Jordan Love on the bench until the last year. Rodgers suffered an injury. They didn't quite make the playoffs. It was time to move on. And when he went to the Jets, he commanded the power.
Yeah.
He commanded that. Now going to the Steelers last year, even though Coach Mike Tomlin was a very, very strong coach, Rodgers still commanded a lot of power, and Tomlin didn't mind giving it to him. This year, McCarthy, his old coach, is back. Rodgers is the one that commands the power at this moment until he starts losing. Then the equation will change.
And again, I guess I'm gonna lead you into something you wanted to talk about now, because is Rodgers going to be mentoring any of these young quarterbacks, or is he just concerned about playing out his string and maybe making a playoff run as he ends his career, or is he going to help these guys along? We always have these debates with starting quarterbacks. I know your position was a little bit different, and I'll let you go there. But is it his responsibility in any way to help these guys along? We had this debate in Green Bay.
Kind of in the case of Aaron Rodgers, situations are different. I'd say, yeah, it would be nice if he did. He'd be a real team player if he did, for the simple reason Aaron Rodgers himself has said this is his last year. Now, it might not be his last year. He might come back next year and say, well, I intended it to be my last year. I'm back for one more year. And he could keep stretching it out if he's playing well. It's going to be his last year if he doesn't play well. That I could tell you. But with that being the case, if he really means that this is his last year and he wants to put the Steelers in a good spot going forward, you help mentor these guys, because I have to believe they'll all want to learn from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he has a lot of wisdom he could give them. So I kind of feel in a way there's an obligation. But if it was a younger version of Aaron Rodgers, no, I mean, he's not obligated to do it. Ben Roethlisberger, let me just say, Ben Roethlisberger, Keith, is the ultimate jerk, okay? Let's be honest about it, the way Big Ben acted. But when Big Ben said, I'm not going to mentor Mason Rudolph, it's not my job, when the Steelers drafted Rudolph in the third round, he sounded bad, Roethlisberger, saying it. But the reality is he didn't say anything wrong. It really isn't his job.
To use the Rodgers analogy deeper, Rodgers, for all his faults, and I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan, he did help Jordan Love in Green Bay. And a lot of that was driven by the fact that he was given no help from Brett Favre, who said exactly the same things that Roethlisberger said. He said, it's not my job to help this guy take my job. But Rodgers was different. He did help Jordan Love along a lot when he was still in the midst of the prime of his career. So you got to give him some kudos there.
Okay, it depends how much of a threat that backup is to the starting quarterback.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. At New England, Drake May, even though he's younger and has been in the league less than Tommy DeVito, if Drake May can help Tommy DeVito, he should do it, and probably would do it, because DeVito is no threat to take Drake May's starting job away. Correct. But if someone behind you is a threat to take your job away, do you really want to go out of your way to help them take your job away? It's a cold business. These coaches can't have it both ways. At times they call for quarterback competitions, yet you want one guy to help the other guy. I mean, take J.J. McCarthy at Minnesota. And Keith, I was extremely critical of Kevin O'Connell calling a quarterback competition between Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy, because I said when we all know Kyler Murray is going to be the starter. We all know that. Then what's going to happen the moment he officially announces Kyler Murray as the starter after saying there was a competition, J.J. McCarthy is going to be badly diminished. And guess what? He's badly diminished now. But had they announced Kyler Murray as the starter from the get-go when he came to Minnesota, it would have just been a question of J.J. McCarthy taking a step back, coming back from an injury, getting refocused. Everyone would have known their role. And I'm going to tell you, what J.J. McCarthy mentioned, which is revealing too, the Viking quarterback room. He said it's like high school. We don't sit next to one another. We sit across, a lot of desks from one another. So when he's in the room with Kyler Murray's not making nice to J.J. McCarthy, because if J.J. McCarthy was his competition, do you think he doesn't want to necessarily joke and laugh and be buddies with his competition. It's just, it doesn't build team harmony at the end of the day. But everyone puts on a smiley face. Oh, I'm going to be a good teammate. I'm going to be rooting for him. I'm this, I'm
What should he do? What should he do? Ignore him? I mean, chemistry means something. And whatever room we're talking about.
Kyler Murray has ignored J.J. McCarthy because he was competing with him. I don't mean he was rude to him. No. There's a difference involved. You're not rude to your teammate. You're not putting him down. But you don't have to be his buddy. You don't have to help him. You could be cordial with him.
I didn't say help
morning him. And then you go on your way.
You know what, though? Guys who are confident and good at teammates will help each other along, even if they're competing against one another. That's what they do. You watch those quarterback rooms or the running back rooms or the wide receiver rooms, whatever room we're talking about. And again, once we have cameras in there, I understand it's not reality and we don't necessarily see everything that's real. You're not looking through a lens of realism necessarily, but I think there's some accuracy there, and guys that are bonded together a little bit, even when they're competing against each other, are better teammates than those that are not.
I think it depends on the situation and depends on the team, what their commitment is to a quarterback. Certain teams, like the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. Look, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen are the starters. Yes. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow's the starter. Joe Flacco's the backup. Flacco's the veteran. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, Flacco. But on a scale of 1 to 100, what type of threat is he to Joe Burrow? -1. I mean, come on, let's be honest. So Burrow can be buddies with Flacco, and Flacco knows he's never going to unseat Joe Burrow. So he's not even going to he's going to root for Burrow to do well, okay? Because he's a team guy. He's going to be ready to come in. He's happy to have a job. But he's not going to, it's not going to be that way.
Well, again, and James is agreeing with you here. And I'm not saying you should go overboard. I'm just saying you should be supportive. How about that? Not help you take your job, but you should be supportive of your teammates. Maybe I'm using the wrong terminology, and maybe you don't think they should even be that. But you can be supportive of somebody without rooting for him to take your job or helping him take your job.
We're talking about when you say supportive, a starter is supportive of someone being a backup. I'm talking about in the case of Kyler Murray with J.J. McCarthy. Kyler Murray might be branded by some as a bad guy if they knew the whole situation because he's kind of been aloof towards, J.J. McCarthy, but he was put in that situation of competing. And I don't like the situation with the Raiders. The narrative is, Kirk Cousins is going to be a mentor for Fernando Mendoza. The public is making him a mentor. If I'm Fernando Mendoza, my thought is, I don't need you as a mentor guy. Don't force yourself on me. The whole darn thing is an act. Yeah. I'm not saying Kirk Cousins isn't a good guy. I'm not saying that for a second. And I'm not saying Kirk Cousins wouldn't try to give some help genuinely. I'm not disputing that. But the bottom line is this. Kirk Cousins doesn't want to lose the starting job. Everyone knows Fernando Mendoza was drafted #1 overall to be the Raider quarterback of the future. But Kirk Cousins is also scratching and clawing for his life as a start in the NFL. And he's probably thinking, wow, if I can play really well and lead the Raiders to the playoffs, I'm the quarterback that started next year. And if I continue doing it next year, I could be that maybe going forward. Maybe I hold, Mendoza off. I want to hold him off as long as I could.
Well, I agree, but
if I'm Mendoza, I don't like that. I want to get in and play as soon as I can.
Yeah, but the Raiders essentially brought him in there to mentor Mendoza.
Smart. They're not creating a quarterback competition. They did it the smart way because Mendoza is not being diminished in any way, shape, or form because the Raiders are handling the right way. And I'll tell you this too. Even though I like the idea of young quarterbacks playing, I feel you learn the most when you're playing. I can understand Mendoza sitting a little in the beginning, and it's good that if Mendoza's made the starter week 1 and they had to replace him with Cousins, that would be very damaging. But when Mendoza's finally brought in, he gets to play. I mean, situations are different. Some teams are so bad, like I mentioned Cam Ward, he got to be a starter immediately at Tennessee. Jaden Daniels got to be a starter immediately at Washington. It depends on the situation.
Who was Cam Ward's backup his rookie year? I don't remember. Will Levis? No, he was hurt.
Will Levis, Mason Rudolph.
Right. Well, I would argue that he could have used a better role model actually in Tennessee.
Well, yeah.
Did Eli Manning benefit from Kurt Warner?
But
with the Giants?
Plan was this. People forget when Eli Manning took over after something like 9 games into the season in his rookie year, that was the plan all along. The Giants were doing well at that point. They weren't bad. They were like 5-4. And then when Eli Manning took over, they lost games. But they knew that was the plan. It was no secret that Manning would play as soon as they thought he was ready, regardless of how Kurt Warner was doing.
How's that different than the Raiders situation, though? I mean, that's the same thing. They're bringing it. They just brought 2. These guys are both coming into the building. It's not like one of them was there before, and this guy's brought in to take his job. That's the same case basically as the Giants.
It's the same thing, but the Raiders have an elephant in the room who they're going to listen to named Tom Brady. Brady's going to wield a lot of influence on the quarterback situation when a change is going to be made. Because Brady is a minority owner. When he speaks up, believe me, the owner's going to take notice. And when the owner, Mark Davis, takes notice, what the heck was that? You put on things I can't even read it. I'm in the middle of
because I'm trying to ignore it. He's just saying you're like he pictures Jack Neighbor as the overworked postman banging on the wall. Enough of Mendoza.
You don't want to hear about Mendoza, but Mendoza's the number 1 overall pick.
No, Mendoza's an important guy to talk about.
He's going to be a big story this year.
I'm still not sold on Fernando Mendoza. I'm on record as saying that before he fails, if he fails, but he may make it. But I think he's got a long ways to go.
He'll be good.
I do too, but not out of the gate.
I don't think he's going to be a great quarterback in the league, but I think he's going to be good. The funny thing, if you're asking me, he might be the next Kirk Cousins, ironically, okay?
That's ironic.
Give you an idea. Some guys have the it factor, not many. Like we were talking about the Steeler quarterback situation. I really hope Allah and Howard do really well because if you want a long-range prediction on the NFL draft, that the Steelers are going to draft Trinidad Chambliss, and he's a game changer for any franchise. And the Jets will find a way to bundle it and not draft him.
I may have to eliminate the NFL from these shows altogether if we can't keep Trinidad Chambliss out of one show. God, one show. That's all I'm asking for.
Because when it happens, I don't want any questioning. Like you're going to say, yeah, I felt the same way.
I'm not going to tell you that. I will tell you I was wrong. If I'm wrong, and I don't think I'm going to be wrong, he'll be a player. He'll get drafted. He's not going to be the number one pick in the draft.
Oh, no, he'll be a great quarterback, Hall of Famer.
You have told me he'll be a Hall of Famer and he'll be the number one pick in the draft.
Hall of Famer.
No question.
But the Jets are going to wind up. I'm going to tell you now. The Jets are going to wind up drafting Dante Moore, the quarterback from Notre Dame, and it's going to be wow. While Chambliss is going to be great, Dante Moore, unfortunately, is probably going to struggle. You know,
you said Notre Dame, Oregon. You said, I think you said Notre Dame, Oregon.
I'm sorry.
By the way, that's a Freudian slip because the guy from Notre Dame, CJ Carr, might be the first pick in the draft next year. By the way,
he was, good? He was a riser last year. He was rising. Notre Dame is supposed to have a serious chance to contend for the national championship this year.
Good football team. The defense is still good, and CJ Carr is going to be better. They got to replace 2 running backs, but they do that all the time. I think they'll be fine. I think they're going to be very good.
A lot of quarterbacks coming out. There's going to be more than one good quarterback coming out of the draft. Put it that way. As high as I am on Trinidad Chambliss, there are going to be, a couple of other really good quarterbacks coming out.
Where was Kirk Cousins drafted, by the way? Is he he was like a 6th rounder, wasn't he?
The 4th rounder.
Fourth round. That's right.
Well, the ironic part, when the Washington Redskins at the time drafted Cousins in the 4th round, they had drafted RG3 in the 1st round with the 2nd overall pick in the draft. And that's highly unusual because the 4th rounder, you can still get value in the draft. You could still get value at a position. And the idea that they would use that selection on another quarterback after taking RG3 the same year, that was a shocking surprise that turned out well for them.
What as far as preseason football goes, any other takeaways from last night's games? I don't have a lot. I think, again, you're seeing some really good quarterback play, and I wouldn't get excited about it. I would everybody should slow the roll a little bit, whether it's Carson Beck, whether it's Drew Allar.
Yeah.
Let's just slow your roll on week 1 of the preseason of how these guys are playing. But it's good to have football back.
What does it mean to coaches these preseason games first and foremost? They want to see who they're going to keep on the team, the marginal players. That's the biggest value. Now, the guys who are in there playing hard, they're playing hard because they might be playing for their careers, a number of them. But but it's out of sync, Keith. It's out of sync. Like you mentioned, the quarterback, and you're not throwing against the regular defense. You're throwing against the coaches are mixing and matching guys who won't be playing together as a first unit during the season.
100%. I mean, should I get excited about, whatever, anything, or not excited about anything the Patriots do in the preseason? I'm not going to be.
You should get most excited about, Keith?
Injuries. That's it. That's all.
You guys don't get injured.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, players just want to do enough to keep sharp. I mean, your starters want to be in there to do enough to be sharp. They'll play them a quarter, this and that. It's not like it used to be. I mean, remember the dark ages when Joe Namath was a Jet quarterback? The NFL would have a 14-game regular season schedule, 6 exhibition games.
And the starters would play most of those.
And Namath got injured and was out for the year trying to make a tackle.
Yeah. I mean, starters should play a little bit more than they do. I mean, the Patriots probably played, I don't know if they played 10 guys that will be on that roster come September 1st. I doubt they played 10 guys last night. They'll be on the roster. So, again, you want to get a look at these guys. I understand. But one of the reasons, and I say this every season now, one of the reasons we have such bad football in September is the fact that nobody plays in August. Hardly at all.
You pointed that out last season or the season before. and I analyzed it a little more. I do listen to you now and then, Keith, what you have
once in a while, at least.
Yes. And actually, you nailed it. And watching the games, I didn't like what I was seeing. There was like a lot of sloppiness.
Oh.
It just, boxing is my thing. It's like a fighter who's very rusty, missing a lot of punches, not sharp. It's like a fighter who hasn't sparred, and now he's in a real fight. But a good point that you also made, I think you made it. If a team really played their starters in these exhibition games, and I don't mean went all out, but played their guys a lot, they might be more ready to steal a couple of those early season games.
I think so.
Get off to a nice start.
Look at teams like the Bengals who get off to horrendous starts every year, it seems, right? Yeah. And they got to fight their way back. If they'd won one or two of those September games that they blow because they're not in sync, it would make all the difference in a playoff race. So,
and it was sometimes shocked when we look back at certain games, certain teams. How did this team beat that other team? But then we look back and the week a team won in September, like you mentioned with the Bengals a couple of seasons ago, the year before the Super Bowl last year under Jared Mayo, the Patriots stunned the Bengals in week 1. Like, where did that come out of? And then we think, are the Patriots better than we thought? No, they weren't that season. They were as bad as we thought most of us they'd be a couple of years ago. But game 1 surprised us. Look at last year. Patriots go to the Super Bowl. The Raiders upend them. The Raiders, a team with the number 1 overall pick in the draft. That was one of their wins over a team that went to the Super Bowl because it happened. What was it? Game 1?
Game 1.
Game 1.
Game 1. And they lost to the Steelers in the first couple of weeks as well, which, again, the Steelers weren't as bad as the Raiders, but they weren't as good as the Patriots.
That's why making predictions week 1 of the season, you're going to get some major surprises. Things aren't going to go according to form. And then as the weeks go by, we think we have a good read on the team. We think we know how good they really are. But things keep changing because some of these teams kind of play their way into shape. With that said, one of the knocks in the preseason picks, we're not going to make them yet. We'll make them with James, Brian, at the appropriate time in a couple of weeks or so or whatever, is the Patriots having a very easy schedule last year. That's what people are claiming. That was a large part of their success. And in the playoffs, catching a break with Bo Nix, not being able to play, etc. I don't like that narrative, Keith, because,
I don't.
Every game you have to earn, every team you have to beat. You could look at even an upcoming schedule in games that are supposedly easy now, could be considered difficult games later, vice versa.
100%. 100%. And the Patriots, I think, will be better this year with a worse record. I mean, just to, in talking in generalities, they won't win 14 games, but I think they'll have a better team.
But certain divisions, it's easy to forecast in advance. Like the AFC East, we know it's going to come down to between Buffalo and New England to win that division. No one's picking Miami or the Jets. So we know we could group them into categories, Buffalo, New England is one bracket in that division. The Jets, Miami on the other bracket. But the quarterback situation is going to dominate the football talk as far as the bad teams.
Always will.
Certain bad teams are not going to draft a quarterback next year because they're committed to who they have, or they'll probably be committed to who they have. If Tennessee is bad again, they're probably still going to be committed to Cam Ward. That would be my guess, unless Cam Ward is atrocious this year. Then they'd move on from it. Miami, if Malik Willis plays well on balance, but Miami's bad, they'll probably stick with Malik Willis going forward, would be my guess. Jets, I don't care how Geno Smith plays. It would be a travesty to stick with Geno Smith beyond this year. As you start, unless they draft a quarterback and they want to sit him in the beginning and they'll roll with Geno Smith for a second year.
Well, I think you're going to, again, there's a pretty good class of quarterbacks theoretically coming out next year, but we thought that last year at this time too, and we didn't have a good class. So,
and we're going to get a blockbuster deal if the Bengals don't have a good season, and you're the Jets, and the Bengals call you and they want your 3 number ones. Joe Burrow, what is he, about 30 years old? 29, 30?
I don't think he's that old. I think he's in his late 20s.
Late 20s. And you're the Jets. Would you make the craziest of deals and give you 3 number 1 draft picks for Joe Burrow?
Well, he'd be 30 then, so he's 29 now. He would be 30 years old.
But quarterbacks can play till they're 40 now. We know that. Can,
but he's had health issues.
I wouldn't make the deal. No way I would make the deal.
I don't think I would, not for a 30-year-old quarterback.
Is there anyone younger who a team might give up on who was a elite quarterback?
An elite quarterback? Who's giving up on that?
Yeah, Lamar Jackson will be there for years, with the Ravens still. They'll have a new contract with him. And Josh Allen, same thing. I saw a hypothetical thing. What it would take for a team to trade for Josh Allen, what it would take for the Bills to give up on him. And they had something like 7 first-round draft picks.
Well, that's outrageous, and that's why it'll never happen.
But things are so outrageous sometimes. If you get a 25-year-old John Elway or Dan Marino, hypothetically, okay, someone of that caliber, and the team says, we're going to give you our first-round draft choice for the next 10 years. You got to think to yourself, but if I have one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of football playing for me for the next 10 years at the top of his game, is it worth it? It's thought-provoking.
It's the epitome of hypothetical because nobody would ever be trading that guy either. So you would never trade that guy.
I remember Don Shula said about Dan Marino. He said, if teams want to trade for him, we make them an offer that they have to refuse, and then if they don't refuse it, we refuse it.
We're talking about great players. Let me put up Chris's comment. A fun fact is that Bo Jackson's quarterback with the Raiders was Jay Schrader, also a baseball prospect. Did football kill Bo's baseball career? 100%. He should have played baseball the whole time. I remember Bo dislocated his hip, had to have a hip replacement. Still played baseball with a hip replacement. One of the greatest athletes of all time, Bo Jackson.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but it's easy to say, but the thing that makes Bo Jackson iconic to this day is him playing both sports. If he was just a baseball player, okay, and even if he got to the Hall of Fame as a baseball player, let's say hypothetically he was a borderline Hall of Famer, but good enough to get in. Let's compromise. Call him a Hall of Famer. He gets in. He wouldn't be as iconic as he is, if he didn't have football. That's what made him Bo. Two-sport athlete. And Howie Long used to say he played football as a hobby. It was crazy. We all worked so hard. It was our life. He would just show up and dominate. What's
funny is I think the injury almost played into the mythical status of Bo Jackson. I think the injuries and the what if kind of play into that whole thing.
Well, but this is thought-provoking. Deion Sanders. We know he's one of the greatest cornerbacks of all time, if not the best. Okay, I personally think he's the best cover man I ever saw.
That's fair.
Best cover man in NFL history, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
He was so dominant and invincible, the way he would shut down one side of the field. Had Deion Sanders been a full-time baseball player, how good would he have been? What was
I don't think he was that good.
Could he have been another Kenny Lofton, for example? If he did it full-time, concentrated only on baseball.
That'd be his ceiling, would be Kenny Lofton, which isn't terrible, obviously.
Which is excellent.
I personally haven't watched him in person here in Albany when he played AA. for the Yankees. I just don't think he was ever going to be that good with the bat. He was fast. That was his thing. He was fast. I don't think his bat was ever going to be Kenny Lofton like. Now, that doesn't mean he wouldn't have progressed if he focused 100% on baseball. But that was never going to happen. I don't think his money was going to be made in football because of who he was.
Obviously. I mean, but Deion Sanders playing both sports. It was interesting watching the documentary 30 by 30. And despite his antics, the Braves had him on the roster when they played the Yankees in the World Series because he was 8 for 6. Oh, when they played the Blue Jays, I forgot which team David Cohn was on at the time. I think it was the Blue Jays.
Yes.
Was it the Blue? Yeah.
Yes,
but he was 8 for 16 against David Cohn. That's phenomenal. David Cohn was not that far away from being a Hall of Famer. Perfect game pitcher, great pitcher. And to go 8 for 16, that's not a fluke. That's already a body of work.
I remember that
season. 8
season.
for 16. That's not 1 for 2 or 2 for 4. 8 for 16. Wow.
I remember that season very well. If you remember, they won the NL championship. The Braves in the locker room celebration. He kept hammering Tim McCarver, who'd been very outspoken on Deion. He kept pouring champagne over his head, throwing it in his face.
Ice water. No, Deion Sanders was absolutely wrong. Should have gotten suspended for it because that's a physical act.
I agree.
Okay, that he absolutely should have gotten suspended. Now, with that said, McCarver took cheap shots at Deion Sanders. I heard McCarver's commentary. Completely out of line, McCarver was. The cheap shots he was taking, calling Sanders selfish, this and that. I didn't like it at all. And let's be honest about it. Deion Sanders was an easy mark. It wasn't racial on McCarver's part. Don't get me wrong. But the narrative is, Deion Sanders is a very flamboyant black man. And McCarver is considered the ultimate company man, stable, white guy, this, that. So the narrative was always going to look bad for Deion Sanders in that regard. But and McCarver was taking cheap shots. He really was. And I didn't like it at the time. But what Sanders did, you could make an argument that was borderline criminal. When you pour ice water on a guy, that was done maliciously by Sanders in retaliation for what McCarver said. I think Major League Baseball should have suspended, Deion for that.
One more thing on Deion. At the same time, one of his backfield mates with the Falcons was Brian Jordan, who was a much better baseball player than Deion was. Had a much better career too. He wasn't nearly as good a football player though. So they were kind of polar opposites.
Yeah, I mean,
Brian Jordan was a great player.
Who was a better? It's a great question. And I know you're going to say Bo Jackson, but combining both sports, who was a better all-around two-sport athlete? Deion Sanders or Bo Jackson? And I'm not talking about athletic skill. I know you're going to say Bo Jackson.
A no-brainer for me.
Well, no, it's not. I'm going to tell you why. Deion Sanders was a better football player than Bo Jackson because Deion Sanders was the greatest cover man of all time. No one was better. And I'm a Jet fan, and don't tell me Darrelle Revis. Darrelle Revis was a cover man, and no one else was as Deion Sanders.
I wouldn't say he was the best quarterback of all time, but cover man, yes, because he didn't play he didn't play all aspects of the game. He didn't tackle. So again, I can't say he was the best.
Shut down the side of the field. You're altering the game.
Don't you think that if Bo Jackson had a chance, if he'd gotten the chance to be one of the greatest running backs of all time as well? I mean, all around.
He was when he played. I mean,
that would have put him over the top for me. I mean, because he was a much better baseball player, even with raw talent, just raw skills. He was much better than Deion was, and probably would have only gotten better.
He was a better athlete than Bo Jackson. I'm not saying athlete.
I'm just saying he was better raw talent-wise in baseball, he was better than Dion because he could do everything.
In baseball, yeah. Dion, that one throw he made from the fence to home plate.
Jesus.
I mean, he was a Superman, Bo Jackson.
He even found a way to play with an artificial hip.
What would he have been? What would he have been better at if he just concentrated on one full-time, football or baseball, Bo Jackson? Before you say football, consider if all his energies went into baseball, complete 100% year-round dedication.
He'd have been a bigger star in baseball. He'd have been a better baseball player and a bigger star if he concentrated on it.
I'm going to tell you why. Because as great as he was at football, part of your success for any running back is predicated on the offensive line. Sure. Part of it. I don't care how great you are. If your offensive line fails you, you're not going to have to, as much of an impact as you could have.
That's fair. And I think he would have, been as big. Bo is big anyway. If he ever made it.
Bo could have been Mike Trout. That's a good comparison.
He'd have been bigger than Mike Trout. Bigger.
He wouldn't have been better than Mike Trout.
A bigger name is what I'm saying. He would have been a bigger
superstar,
a bigger name in baseball.
Absolutely.
If he concentrated. He'd have been the biggest name in the sport.
But the point I tried to make before, Bo Jackson has a legacy, even today, tremendous legacy. Okay, he does. The idea we're talking about in the way we are. We wouldn't spend this amount of time talking about Mike Trout, who's one of the greatest outfielders, players I've ever seen. Good morning.
Good morning, Robert.
It's from Tennessee, probably heard the Cam Ward talk.
That's probably. That's what's, one of the great things about sports are the what if questions, right? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs in sports, and Bo Jackson, Mike Trout are two of the biggest what ifs in recent, recent.
No, Mike Trout's not a what. No, Mike Trout's not a what if.
Sure it is, because what if he had stayed healthy all these years? What
would he's going to the Hall of Fame?
I'm not saying he's not.
Slam dunk Hall of Famer right now.
There's still a legitimate what if question. If he'd stayed healthy, what would he look like? He'd have been one of the greats of all time.
Isn't there what if on Ken Griffey Jr. in a sense?
No, I don't think so.
He
what if?
He went to Cincinnati.
Well, he was old then. He was old.
The problem, it depends the environment you put in, whatever. And even Mike Trout now, he wants to stay with the Angels. I would tell any player, this is just me, go wherever it's convenient and it's best for you. Don't have an attitude you're going to be with a team your whole career. You want to know why? Because at the end of your career, when you're going to want to play 1 or 2 more years, that team's going to show no sentiment towards you, and they won't kick you out the door. They'll help you to the door. They'll tell you to take your time walking to the door, but nevertheless, they'll show you the door. What I mean by that is, Keith, Mike Trout has a contract that I think runs through the year 2030 or something like that.
I think that's...
I'm not... Right. When he's done with his contract, it might be past that. It might be even... a couple of years more than that. I don't know. You're good at looking these things up. But the bottom line is this. If he wants to continue playing after a few more years when his contract is up, Arding Marino, the Angel owner, might accommodate him, but Mike Trout's going to go from like $35 million a year. He says, yeah, okay, you could stay on for $2-3 million a year, while other teams might pay him, $10 million a year more. I'm just throwing numbers here. The bottom line is the loyalty won't be there. The Angels will just say you ran out your contract, good, and Trout's going to have a decision.
He'll be 40 years old too, Jack.
He wants to retire, or he could play a year or 2 more, going elsewhere. And
I'm not so sure he gets to that point. I mean,
Mike Trout, you know what I tell the Angels? He grew up a Philly fan. His family's from New Jersey. He lives there in the off season. I would tell the Angels, I'll waive my no trade clause if you trade me to the Philadelphia Phillies or the New York Yankees, teams that in his area, whatever.
Yeah.
That would be me, but it's admirable how much he loves the organization. I mean, it's very admirable.
I guess in a way it'd be fun to see him play for his favorite team before he leaves. But again, remember, he'll be 40 years old. The contract does go through 2030. He'll be a free agent in 2031. He'll also be 40 years old with a long history of not being healthy. And I don't know that he's going to be playing.
But the bottom line is this. This is what I'm trying to say, Keith. He might still have enough left to be good enough to hold a roster spot at that point. Legitimately good enough. Yeah. And some team would have interest in a big name like him, thinking they could catch a little lightning in the bottle. They'll claim as a situational player, could still be real good. We won't have to pay him a lot of money. And at that point, the Angels might say, well, we're moving on from you. It's been great. We're going to retire your number. You'll always be part of the Angel family. But what does Trout do if he wants to play a year or two more and another team will take him? But the Angels won't. The Angels might not. Their loyalty is only going to run as long as he can enforce the contract, which he can do for a few more years.
I'm torn. I can't see into the future. If Mike Trout is suddenly going to get much healthier the next, 4 years,
it depends what the guy wants to play. Jorge Posada was a career Yankee. He could have gone elsewhere for one more year. He could have gone. The report was the Miami Marlins were interested.
Yeah.
He decided to retire. Sometimes players get dirty, like John Smoltz. The Braves are so cheap. They wouldn't offer him really anything at the end of his career. And he wound up going to Boston for like a month or two or something. Yeah. And he wasn't a career Atlanta Brave because of that.
Well, he came up with the Tigers.
Braves never have any sentiment at all.
No. Well, and maybe that's why they've been successful over the years for the most part too. I don't know. But I don't want to see guys. I'm glad Posada did not retire. You talk about it all the time. Andy Pettitte might be in the Hall of Fame if he played his whole career with the Yankees and didn't leave for 2 years.
But that was Andy Pettitte's decision.
No, I know.
The Yankees didn't really move on from him. Andy Pettitte could have been a Yankee his whole career. Those 2 years he went to Houston, the Yankees were too slow after the 2003 World Series to offer him a viable contract. They did at the very end, but at that point, he had talked with Houston, decided to go. Let's get off this old school stuff, Keith. What's going on modern times?
Before we get off football, Jaden Daniels is cutting all his ties with the University of LSU over the fact that not letting them use his name, image, or likeness. He wants his Heisman Trophy, the version that they have sitting there back. All because, apparently, they gave his number to a defensive back this year when they promised they wouldn't give his number. It seems kind of, again, I think you said you were of two minds. I am a little bit. I think it's showing disrespect to one of the greatest players in the history of the program. Arguably. But I also think it's a bit childish on Jaden Daniels' side as well.
I'm of two minds right now because we're going to talk about it on our debate show tomorrow. I'm going to talk with James Martin and Brian Arndt. That's going to be one of the debate questions. So I'm going to reserve my official position, give it a little more thought. But there's so many different layers. And right now on this show I'm just going to look at it from everyone else's position, not from my position, okay? This isn't my position today. I'll have my position tomorrow. If I'm Jaden Daniels, I'm a Heisman Trophy winner in 2023. The other past Heisman Trophy winners have had their numbers retired. Why isn't my number being retired? I'm a Heisman Trophy winner. That's the ultimate disrespect. That should make me iconic at LSU.
Well, he says he had a promise for that to happen too, by the way.
And he had a promise for it to happen. But now there's a new coach that comes in, Lane Kiffin, who has no sentiment at all. Let's be honest about it. As far as the tradition of LSU goes, the only tradition Lane Kiffin cares about is from the day he takes over coaching. He wants that tradition from Lane Kiffin on. Whatever happened in the past is so unimportant to Lane Kiffin when it comes to the school. And take this kid, DJ Pickett, from his position. He was off. They told him he had number 5. He might not have gone to LSU if he couldn't get number 5. So he maybe went to the school based on that promise. He's under no obligation.
He played last year with a different number, just an FYI. He played with number 3 last year, and he's going to 5 this year.
He did pay, but he was promised when he first came to the school, he was promised not to transfer, I believe. He'd have number 5. Okay.
Maybe that's what it is.
And he may have transferred. That's what I meant. Okay. So if he was given that promise and he didn't transfer and he was going to have number 5, well, I mean, he has no obligation to give up number 5. What's his obligation here?
I personally think
and the father and DJ Pickett's dad is saying he's disappointed in Jaden Daniels. He should be rooting for his son, saying take number 5 and this and that. And then there's another school of thought, Keith. If I'm a player, do I ever want to see my number get retired? There's a school of thought, wouldn't I want to see other players always wear my number? I get a kick out of seeing someone with my old number. I always thought to myself, and this isn't directly involved in what we're talking about, if I was a great player and they wanted to retire my number, instead of that, I'd say, no, I want my number to be used, but I want to be able to have a say on who uses it, who has my number, because I want it to be a player who conducts himself in the correct way. I mean, not so much only how he performs on the field. For example, a Terrell Owens, great player, but he would ruin teams with his attitude. I wouldn't want a Terrell Owens wearing my number because I couldn't look proudly at what he would be doing, team-wise.
We've had situations like that. Who's a recent Giant defensive player that wanted to wear 56, and they went to Taylor to ask if he could wear it? Who was it?
Abdul Carter.
Abdul Carter, right. And maybe that's what they should do. You can retire the number, but give permission to the player to say you can unretire.
No, and the player not giving permission shouldn't be considered a bad guy to retire.
I didn't say he was.
Something.
I didn't say he was.
Let me go a step further. Once a number's retired, I don't think teams should even go to the player to ask them. Look, if Aaron Rodgers won number 12 at Green Bay, Joe Namath volunteered on his own Joe Namath when they came to him. No, they could bring my number out of retirement for Aaron to wear. Joe loves the Jets still. And he likes Aaron Rodgers personally. He said he's a great quarterback and he's a great guy. And I would be very happy for him to wear my number. Aaron Rodgers, to his credit, understood
he said no.
What Joe Namath meant to the Jets and everything. And Aaron wasn't dead set on wearing number 12. He was able to adjust to wearing another number. It didn't seem to bother him, okay? But once the number's retired, I mean, Phil Simms was asked by one of the players, who was it? Was that Abdul Carter or someone else? Did I get it wrong when you said
Phil Simms?
Lawrence Carter? Yeah. But
Carter wanted 56, I think.
Phil Simms is willing to allow his number to come out of retirement, but his family talked him out of it. Yeah. No, you don't do that. What happens if you allow your number to come out of retirement, Keith, and the player who takes your number becomes iconic in his own right? You lose some of the control or some of the status, I should say, of having your number retired.
Maybe so. I mean, look, we talk about the Yankees and retiring numbers, and they retired too many, but then they have multiple. They have numbers that should be retired for multiple people, and they won't do it.
Wait. Bill Dickey and Yogi Berra both have number 8. Yogi Berra took number 8 after Bill Dickey, but they were both catchers. And Bill Dickey was big in the Yankee organization after he retired as a coach and all.
How about number 9? How can 9 be retired for Roger Maris and not for Greg Nettles? I don't get it.
Yet they did retire the Yankees his number,
Roger
right?
Maris's number, not for Greg Nettles. He's never been.
The Yankees' treatment of Greg Nettles has been disgraceful.
I agree.
You know, has Greg Nettles been back to a Hall of Fame thing in years or what?
Not in a long time. He has been back, but not. I don't know that he's been there in a decade. I mean, he's in his 80s too now. But
you're right. I don't know how much Greg Nettles really cares about all this.
I don't think he does.
Sometimes we can't. What you say does?
I don't think he does. I don't think he really does. He's put it past him. He put it behind him, I think.
Right. Sometimes we care more than the player does, in a sense. Yeah. But
I don't know.
It's a bad narrative the way the Yankees handle things in that regard. But with LSU, I understand everyone's position. There's a lot of different layers to everything, you know, and it goes back with Chip Kelly, what was promised, the coach before Lane Kiffin. There are a lot of different layers to all this. The only thing I'll say, I'm not happy with DJ Pickett's dad. I meant what he said about Jaden Daniels. Like he kind of put him down. He crossed the line there, I thought.
Yeah,
he really did.
I agree.
Jaden Daniels didn't say anything about his son negatively at all. Okay.
He had nothing to do with him. Had nothing to do with the kid at all.
Right. To tell him whatever. I didn't like it. But now the lawyers involved, suing for likeness, this and that. You know, if I'm Jaden Daniels, if I want to protest this, you know what I do? Before games, when they announce the university that's where someone's from, players occasionally do this. They have their high school announced.
Yeah.
Leave out LSU.
I think he might.
And just have your high school announced. I'm from this high school.
I'd be shocked if he doesn't do that, by the way.
And
I'd be shocked.
Jaden Daniels disassociates himself from LSU. His Heisman means a lot of status for LSU. Still, to have your Heisman taken out of the window or anything with you having to do with the school, try that. Disassociate yourself from the school or whatever. And it's bad PR for the school if Jaden Daniels turns into a great NFL quarterback, but would tell players LSU has no loyalty, blah, 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 blah. But then would he be wrong? You know, this has a lot of layers. My official position will be there tomorrow.
If you want Jack's real opinion, check out the debate show tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
It has a lot of layers.
It does. I agree. It does. I kind of agree with Jaden Daniels.
What's your opinion on this, Keith? You're on the fence like usual.
I am, but the more we talk about it, the more I'm in Jaden Daniels' corner that he's being disrespected here greatly. When I know that all these other great players have been retired and I was promised the same treatment. And Lane Kiffin, listen, I've done a lot of sticking up for Lane Kiffin, but you're absolutely right. History starts today. There is no history before today. And I don't like that. I've seen coaches in colleges specifically do that. I remember this guy coming into Marquette and taking all the pictures down of Al McGuire and his great teams, taking all the pictures down. You can't do that. And that's what Lane Kiffin is trying to do at LSU. It appears from this situation, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So I guess it's coming down to Jaden Daniels.
Jimmy Johnson did it with the Dolphins, with Don Shula. The heck with tradition. And now other coaches occasionally do the same thing. They come in, they think they want to set their own culture, forget about the past completely. It's what it is. Tomorrow in the debate show, James Martin happens to be a big LSU fan, you know, his whole life. So his take on this will be actually more interesting than mine because he's very invested in LSU.
Oh, no disrespect to James, but how could his opinion be more interesting than yours, Jack? Come on.
Well, in this particular case, he loses all debates to me normally, but this one particular one, I'm going to defer to him. I'm going to kind of concede, and I'll win the other ones.
Before we go, I didn't put this up before, but Robert Butler wants you to get on his show.
Hey, contact. It's absolutely, Rob. I miss you a lot. Okay, get in touch with me. Absolutely, would love to come on your show.
Robert does a great job. I love going on with Robert during college football season. So anyway, Jack, you're right on time. We spent the whole time on the NFL. We spent the whole time on the NFL and 2A players. We did a great job today. Good job. Good luck to your Jets. They play tonight or tomorrow? I think they play tomorrow.
They play tonight.
Do they play tonight?
Tampa Bay, yeah.
Jets get off, or the Jets and Giants play tonight. It'll be more. The NFL is now going to start to take over the show, guys. So get ready for it. Plus, we'll get into Major League Baseball.
I love the NFL
as well. Everybody does, don't they? But guys, we'll catch you Monday morning at 8 a.m. Catch Jack tomorrow morning. We'll both see you on Sunday on the Roundtable Show on McGrath Podcast Network. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye-bye. Nope. Play. I don't know what happened.